All motivation begins with a desire or hunger and ambition for more. The best way to center the mind and the body is through deep breathing.
If someone can describe a train wreck with no emotion to it, don't hire them.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Brendon Burchard, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1, desire more.
The spark of motivation, which is how I anchor into being motivated each day, is ambition. All motivation begins with a desire or hunger and ambition for more, whether that's more depth or more connection or more contribution or more abundance or more wealth or more love. Like, we just want more of something. And that says, I want to go get that. Like, we see a fancier car, it's better than our car, I want to go get that. We see like a deeper love of relationship between two people, I say, I want that in my own life. Sometimes it's a visual cue. Something we see makes us want something, right? Not too far from here, there's a beach that I strolled on vacation, I don't know, a couple years ago. And I said, I want to live here. And it was a motivation. It was a cue. I saw something, desired it, wanted it, went after it. Like, so sometimes it's a visual, it's a cue out in the world that says, I want more of that thing.
Rule number 2, adopt a role model mindset.
If you will realign to the core truth of who you are, stop faking it, stop forcing it, reconnect with what your authentic passions and desires are. Reconnect to your soul, listen to the whispers of your heart, realign to the authentic style of living that you know is true for you, not doing it for other people. Make sure you fulfill those aspirations, your being aspirations. Be the best of who you are. Do things that you're proud of. Relate with other people in the ways that you intend to. Create things that you're proud of. Make sure that you adopt that role model mindset. When you're adopting the role model mindset, you're activating your full potential because you want other people to see that. You want to do things of integrity and value in the world because you want other people to role model that themselves. You're creating the world that you want to be in by living that. You're activating your potential. You're being a role model that will connect you with purpose. You don't have to seek it. It will connect you. When you are in potential, and you are serving by being a role model and being of service to other people, not for yourself, but to be of service to other people, you are connected to purpose.
Rule number 3, learn to center yourself.
You must start training your mind now to deal with stress. Many of you, that means it is finally time to start learning meditation. It's like you've been thinking about it, you kind of meditate once in a while, and you've thought about it, or you did that one retreat one time. I'm like, make it a daily part of your life to center yourself every single day. For some of you, centering yourself, that just means closing your eyes, thinking about who you want to be, thinking about what's important, just calming your mind down. Other people, centering is like that can be just like if you're super stressed, lay down, take a quick nap. For some of you, that can mean like the important self-talk. Some of you, that means meditation. Like for me, if I don't center myself every day, twice a day, actively, the next day I know I'm going to get short with somebody. I'm going to let anxiousness get to me. I'll get my nerves. I'll get frustrated. I'll bow out. I'll quit. It's so clear. It's like super obvious to me that the days that I don't center end up in tomorrows that are chaotic. And so I just got to make sure I take that time every day. That might mean you go take a 45-minute walk. Many of you guys know every single day I walk outside. Every day. Rain, water, snow, sleet, I don't care. I will walk 30 to 45 minutes outside every day. I don't miss, because being out in nature and breathing and feeling the wind on my face and the sun, Just calms me down, gets me grounded back into the earth and into nature. And it's like, okay, every day. So for 20 plus years, I meditate at least once a day. I think for the last 14, maybe 11 years, I've meditated twice per day. Sometimes it's only 5 minutes both sessions. Sometimes it's 10 minutes both sessions. And when I don't get that, I might take like a 30-minute nap in the afternoon. At some point, I'll sneak away. Even when I used to have a corporate job and work for somebody else, I'd go close the door in one of the rooms, one of the meeting conference rooms. I close my eyes for 20 minutes. I meditate, take a nap, lay on the floor, do whatever I have to do to recenter my mind.
Rule number 4, look for passion.
First, we're going to look for a passion for what we do, which I know is very esoteric, but you need to know it. Right? For our company, for our industry, we look for people who are passionate about personal development, professional development and growth, personal change, self-help, people who love personal growth and challenge. We want people who have a passion for that. So we identify the passion related to our company. You have to do that too. And you have to be able to articulate it because you're going to look for it in interviews. Then for us, because we're still a startup, we're under 40 some people, right? Our goal is we look for the ability or the history to deal with unknowns and to get stuff done. Meaning people who are adaptable, flexible, who can come in and kind of figure things out and get things done. They have an experience of either starting new things or being on projects where it was not super well defined. The company they worked for or the teams they worked with were fairly flat and self-managed. Just people who can kind of come in and figure things out and get things done. Third, we're looking for people who have ownership to any failures or struggles. One of my favorite questions to ask people when I'm interviewing one-on-one is a question like, tell me about a time when you were working on a project that you really loved and it completely fell apart. Or a project that was really important and it didn't turn out well. How did you handle it? Tell me about that. And if they describe that and all they do is talk about how everybody else screwed up and they were the savior, and then they're probably not the right person. I look for people who go, you know what? This was a project we were working on. It didn't go so well, and I want them to be able to see I want them to go, I'm bummed that didn't turn out. If someone can describe a train wreck with no emotion to it, don't hire them. So if you ask somebody, tell me about a time that you did a project and it sucked, and they're like, well, and they have no emotion, they're called a sociopath. Don't hire those. They don't do good in culture. Okay, you want to make sure that someone has feeling and emotion to something that failed in the past, that's going to have passion for what you're doing. I always tell people, one of the number one things I love to hire for, which is weird with my new team here, but I love to hire for this single quality, guilt. I love to hire for guilt. What I mean is, I love to hire people that I know if they do a bad job, they'll feel bad about it.
My friend Evan Carmichael's book, listen, humans are built to serve. Some people are built to serve the world, others want to serve the 25 people closest to them. But in either case, humans are built to serve. So if you're not happy right now, it's because you're not serving enough. You got to pick up this book because it's so inspiring to remind you that we're all here to contribute, to make a difference, to make an impact, and this is your field guide for that.
Rule number 5, connect with your ambition.
Think about it. You wake up, you grab your phone, you're like, and all of a sudden you don't have any motivation. Instead, you look through all this stuff and all it did is make you feel like you're not enough, or it distracted you, or it upset you, or it created, anger or anxiousness. You got to be careful how you're using cues to start your day. I use cues to start my day motivated. And those cues to start my day motivated are things like I literally wake up and I'll wake up and I'll think of things that I'm grateful for and that I want to give in life. I'll wake up and I'll think about someone I want to do something nice for or surprise today. I'll think of something I can be excited about today. I'll, as soon as possible in the morning, revisit my ambitions list, my goals list. I'll look at them. I'll not wander through the day looking at social media and then, I guess it's time to work and look at my goals. It's like my goals, in the first few minutes of the day, I'm revisiting them. And what I'm doing is when I'm looking at my goals or my agenda or my schedule, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, why do I want this? What would life be like this? How could I go get it? What should I do today to make that happen? And that motivates me. That's my list of goals, my list of ambitions, the things that can excite me. In other words, it's very intrinsic goals. It's intrinsic rewards that I'm after. I'm like, if I go do that, I will feel better. If I could have this, I'd be happier, right? It's not that I can't be happy with now, but I want to pull. Like if I can have that future pull, that's going to motivate me to go do stuff. Right? I have to literally generate that in my mind. And so when I have that connection in the morning, then my takeaway for you is connect with your ambitions every morning, very first thing in the morning. Somehow part of your morning routine, connect with your ambitions. Look at them. Why do you want them? What would you get from that? How would you feel from that? What would that generate? Why would life be more meaningful? Really connect with that ambition every single morning, and you'll start to notice you feel better.
Rule number 6, create a battle board.
Is there somewhere, can you show me on a wall, visually in your house, not on your computer, not in your little phone, not on this one little note that you tuck away and you hide from everybody else so they don't see what you're working on? No, show me a wall with your battle plan. See, so many people don't break through. And they don't break through because what's end up happening for them is so often they're in this place where, unfortunately, the truth is they didn't have a plan. And they won't talk about it and they won't say anything to anybody. And yet, if you get down to it, you start coaching, you start working with them, you find out they didn't have a plan. They did not have a plan. And so I think it's so important that you realize the value of having your battle plan, right? So a battle board. What's a battle board? If I showed you your house, you would have a wall somewhere. Maybe it's maybe you wrote it on a regular 8.5 by 11, or if you saw it in my room, it's like I literally got like butcher paper, and I take some blue tape, and I strap this thing on this butcher tape across the wall. And what is on that wall? There's 12 boxes on that wall, ladies and gentlemen. What's on that battle board? 12 boxes. What's each box? Yep, a month. Each box represents 1 month. And within that box, what do I have written down? The goals that have to happen that month. The metrics that have to happen that month, the steps I'm going to take that month, the key activities of that month, right there on the battle board. Y'all got it? So, and I've seen a lot of these from clients before. I'll walk in and there's their battle board, and they might have a fancy one made out of burlap and tacks and beautiful Instagram ready battle board. And here's what they got. They got their mission statement across the top. And then they've got on there a reminder of the 3 words of who they want to be as a person. Enthusiastic, bold, present. Oh, I like that. Then they got the 12 boxes. Oh, look, in July, here's the numbers they're trying to hit. Here's what they're trying to do in August. Here's what they're trying to do in September. And on that battle board, it might be the most simple things. It might be in September, event coming up. Okay, what are they doing before the event? Here's the 5 steps. Okay, October, what are they doing? They're taking the vacation. Here's what's going on. But visually representing your battle plan that's on a wall that you see all the time is so important.
Rule number 7, develop breath awareness.
The very first move you must do when you feel that coming on, when you're like getting whacked around into chaos, the very first thing I want you to always remember to do is center in on your breath. I want you, as soon as you feel like angry, start taking deep breaths from the belly, and I want you to count those breaths 20 times. Just start. Like immediately start counting your breathing. If someone's hollering and screaming, before you holler and scream back and react, breathe. The best way to center the mind and the body is through deep breathing. There's literally thousands of years of research behind this in terms of both the more anecdotal to what we now know in neuroscience. That deep breathing can deeply calm the mind and help you make better decisions. So just breathe. Just breathe.
Rule number 8, expand your way of thinking.
Perspective you get from time away from something or from other angles into something. And so the most important thing that I can encourage you to do, just like I asked you to socialize sadness, is to share how you're viewing the problems that you're having in your life or the challenges. And what I mean by that is literally share how you're thinking about it. So if you're struggling with something with your team or your business, then go to your team and say, hey, can I just walk you through how I'm thinking about this and seeing this? Perspective is not trying to solve anything, right? This doesn't say problem solving. It says perspective. It means you share specifically with other people how you are thinking about something and ask how they would think about it. Follow me? So it's like, you know, I'm dealing with this loss in the business right now, and it's really bumming me out. I don't know really how to think. Can I just share you how I'm thinking about it? And you need either a coach who can hear that, a comrade, a collaborator, a colleague, someone who you know, like, and trust, who you can just share how you're thinking through more often. Because most disappointments happen because we get myopic, meaning we narrow our focus solely to the problem. And in not describing how we're viewing it, we can't broaden it. And so no matter what we have found in almost all social psychology research, in almost everything that I know to be true, having coached high performers for so long, is that if we can get you sharing how you're thinking about things and feeling about things with others, and not trying to problem solve, but just asking how they would look at it, it actually makes you look at it a different way. Like, here's what's been going on. Here's how I'm looking at it. How would you look at it? And they might go, oh, well, I look at that. That's like really great for you. You go, what? And like, well, it gives you time now to kind of restart. You know, it's like when Steve Jobs came back to Apple. He had a very different perspective going back to Apple than he had when he was already running it before, but got fired. And that perspective allowed him to do better. He had to go to another organization and start another company and have a whole new set of team members to help him look at things differently that allowed him, when he came back to the same problem, if you will, the same opportunity, if you will, Apple, he saw it in a completely different way because he'd been with a different group of people considering a different problem, and he learned new ways to think. And that's what we always have to do. Keep expanding your ways of thinking about things.
Rule number 9, be in the moment.
Make purpose felt by feeling the day. Create those meaningful moments again. Create them. Just take a little moment. Slow down time when you're with your loved ones. Slow down time when you're doing your art. One way to do that is stop being distracted and trying to multitask and do 50 things. Be in the moment. When you're doing personal development, be in personal development, man. Be there with your journal. When you're at dinner with your loved one, when you're on date night, be there. When you're with the kids playing, be there. When you're with your team leading, be there. That idea of being fully present, again, reconnects you to purpose. And suddenly, it's not about what did you achieve externally. You just feel purposeful. You feel a life of purpose because you are doing things that are meaningful, that are serving aspirations, that are serving as a role model, that are being of service to other people. And all of a sudden you're just like, I'm there. I feel purposeful, even if it doesn't matter how much you have in the bank or what the car is like or what the house is like. Those things are wonderful. But those things are also often a result of realigning to your truth. I say it all the time. Sometimes the universe or God or luck or whatever, the stars, whatever you want to call it, doesn't give you what you want. Because based on all of your distractions and lack of discipline and authenticity, it's simply unsure what you're asking for. If you are asking to feel more purpose, you must realign your life to a life that feels purposeful.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is have a checkpoint.
It's very easy for me to be really effective in the mornings, and then that afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock, and I can just be like, man, I want to go outside, take a walk, come back, turn on some Netflix, eat some carbs. That can be my afternoon if I'm not careful. So here's what I do. I have a checkpoint in the mid-afternoon to recognize, reward, appreciate anything that I have done today. Anything that I have done today. And that midpoint checkpoint, for me on my phone, I just have an alarm. Mine tends to go off around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It just flashes to me and it says, what's been great today? What's been great today? And so that will cue me, all right, it's time to visit. What's been great today? So I'll just think about something I've done. It could be like, I answered 10 emails today that I've been avoiding. Good job. It could be as simple as, I made that one call, I said I was going to call, did it. I shot that content, created that thing, whatever. Some type of, listen, motivation is often driven by recognition. So recognize what you have done so far in the day, early afternoon. Then what I do, in order to keep myself motivated even more, because I've set in my mind that I want to be a person who's excellence driven, what I will do is I say, okay, here's what's great so far. And then I ask just a simple question. How do I complete this day with excellence? Just a simple touch point in the afternoon. How do I complete this day with excellence? So I will look at the rest of the day, whether that's 2 hours more, 4 hours more, 5 hours more, 6 hours more, whatever it's going to be for me. And I go, okay, how do I think through the rest of this day with real excellence? And when I can connect with that, I'm telling you, it's just so part of me, and it really makes me want to serve. So please think about having a mid-afternoon connection point to keep yourself motivated. You'll feel a whole different quality of life come in. I promise it's just a different experience for people, because most people, they're just running and gunning through the day. They don't realize or understand or accept how challenging it is to lose motivation. And so many people, they've gone weeks without being motivated. They're going through the motions, but there's no energy. There's no emotional pull towards something better. And because they're lacking that emotional pull, what ends up happening? They dog it. They don't contribute as much.
Now I've got some special bonus clips that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you just watch a video and you get motivated, the science says you have a 35% chance of actually following through. That's not good enough, Believe Nation. We need to take some action. But when you watch a video, you get motivated and you create a specific plan of action, that number jumps from 35% to 91% chance of you following through. And when you publicly commit to other people, like leaving a comment down in this video, your number jumps to 95% chance of you actually following through on the plan you set for yourself. So I want to know your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. Leave it down in the comments below so I can celebrate you.
We look for the role model mentality. We look to hire people who we can see having the ability to one day manage us. Like when I have my team interview other people, I go, could you see that person managing you one day? Maybe not managing you as your career, but managing you on a project. Could they be the lead on a project for you one day? And if you don't get that vibe that they could lead you, then that's not the person for us. We want people who can lead and take a step up on different projects with us. So when you're hiring, hire people who are above you. Hire people who can lead you, who can manage you, and that will do an awesome service to your company. Now, I know you all have big goals, big dreams, big aspirations, just like I do. You've got ambitions to become an amazing person, to build your career, to create, to contribute, to give, to be an awesome human being. But all of that is impossible without great habits set up. If you don't have routine and structure set up in a way that will keep you on track, then you'll fall off. And having new goals without new habits is kind of like, having a new car without wheels. The habits are the wheels. They're the things that make you able to achieve the goals. So you got to have good habits. But the challenge for most people isn't that knowledge. I mean, you need to have good habits. It's you can't keep the habit going, right? Have you ever started at the new year, you're gonna get healthier, and you start that habit of working out on a more regular basis, and then it goes away? Or you say, I'm gonna be more kind and more patient and more awesome to my partner, my lover, and you start being nice for 2 or 3 days, and then on the 4th day, you're a jerk, and you're like, what happened? I said I was gonna be nicer.
It's that you didn't set up the most important thing you needed to maintain a habit. So what's the biggest secret I've learned in almost 20 years in this field? It's so simple, but most people don't have it. It's called trigger moments. You have to set up trigger moments to activate your habits. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you want to become a better person. You want to become more kind, more patient, more loving with people. Now, you can just set that intention or write that down in your vision, or in your journal, or set up on a vision board that you look at once in a while. But in day-to-day life, it's not enough. You need things to trigger you, to remind you to be that particular kind of person, right? It's almost like if you could have a little angel speaking in your ear all day long to tell you what to do and how to be, you'd obviously become better. Well, that makes sense. Well, let's use that idea. Let's use that idea by setting up alarms on our phones that trigger us to do the very things we need to do. This is gonna be so basic, you're gonna laugh, and then I'll also tell you how I've literally taught this to Fortune 50 CEOs, and they said it was the one thing that changed their life the most dramatically. So let's start with this. Let's have a goal in mind. Let's say you want to become more present and calm throughout the day. Again, you could write that down on a journal. I'm gonna be more present and calm. You could meditate in the morning saying, today I'm gonna be more present and calm. And you could start out with good intentions, but those fall apart without a trigger moment set up throughout the day to remind you that. So what if you did this? What if you just set up on your phone 3 alarms during the day with a label that said, close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths in, remind yourself to be calm. So let's say you're going through your day, it's crazy, right? It's 10 a.m. and all of a sudden, bing, your phone goes off. You look down and it says, close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths. And then again, it happens at 2 o'clock. And again, it happens at 6 p.m. And again, it happens at 8 p.m. What's gonna happen? You always look at your phone, don't you? It's gonna go throughout the day. You're gonna forget. And the funniest thing is, I've had so many people do this worldwide. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people I've taught to do this. Hundreds of thousands. And they tell me all the time, that changed everything. And you'll think, once you set it up, that the next day, you'll forget about it. No, that alarm will go off. You forgot you set the dang alarm. There it goes off in your face, and you're like, all right, I'm trying to be calmer and more present. Close my eyes, take 10 deep breaths, reground myself, here we go. You can't do it once a day. You have to have moments throughout the day that trigger you to enact the new behavior. I know this makes sense to you, but it's a challenge for a lot of people because they never set those things up. So what if you did it with an alarm? So for example, for me on the opposite spectrum, I don't want to just be calmer and more present. I want more energy throughout the day. So here's what I do. One of my big trigger moments is every time my butt hits a chair, I don't care if I'm on a plane or I was like where we're shooting here, I wrote a lot of my books here. I wrote the Motivation Manifesto here. I wrote The Charge here. And if I'm going to write, my butt hits the chair, I grab my phone, I open the timer, and I set 50 minutes. Now at 50 minutes, the timer goes, bzzz, it starts buzzing, and I look at that and I go, oh, that's my trigger to get energy. So I stand up, I go get some water, I take a glass of water, drink it down, I do some stretches, and I do some exercise just really briefly, or I'll go for a walk, whatever it is, but I'll do something that usually takes just 2 to 5 minutes. Then I'll sit back down, I'll set that 50-minute alarm, and I'll work. And what that does is every 50 minutes, it triggers me to change how I'm physically moving. It changes my attention so that throughout the day, I'm continually refreshed. So I never have that 2, 3, 4 o'clock time where I'm like, Why? Because I've triggered my day so that my energy is maintained throughout the day. Makes sense, right? This could be as simple as, let's say you want to be healthier in your life. Okay, let's set up some trigger moments for you in this way. Let's say every time you drop off the kids, on the way back to the house, you stop at the grocery store and get some fresh produce. That's just a trigger. It's like, okay, did one thing, drop kids off. Now, tied to that, triggered from that action, drop kids off, is go to health food store. Or let's say you want to get healthier in the morning. One of the easiest ways to help people maintain a better exercise program is this. Set a trigger, you wake up in the morning, your first action is to drink water, put your exercise shoes on, you might get dressed if you were naked, just saying. So you get dressed, put your shoes on, you go downstairs or you go to the gym, And that's the trigger. You woke up, you do these actions. Nothing interrupts those actions, that's the action. And you have to have those set up. One of my other favorite trigger moments to set up is door frame triggers. What do you mean by that? When you walk into a new room, to have a psychological trigger go off in your mind that you've associated with that door frame. So let me give you an example. If I walk into my house at night, if I've been working all day and I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna see my lady, I have it so when I ever walk through the doors of my house, 3 words repeat off immediately in my mind because I've done it so many times consciously. I went to the door, I said the 3 words, said the 3 words, said the 3 words, and I did this so many times that now when I walk through a door, my mind automatically triggers those 3 words and I remember to be those 3 words. So what words would you love to have describe you as a person? That you would be happy if that was how people described you? What would those words be? Have those and now set them up in your life. I teach executives to do this as well. I have them have a door frame trigger when they walk into their office in the morning. As soon as they walk through that door frame, they have, boom, 3 words go through their mind about how they want to be perceived as a leader. I have them set up another door frame. Every time they walk into a meeting, into the conference room, when they walk through the doors of the conference room, they have another 3 words that trigger off for them. And it just reminds them how to be. So these aren't big, crazy things. A lot of people think they have to completely change their life. What would change your life completely is setting up more trigger moments and associations that when you see something, you do this. That when this action is taken, then that happens. That when you have the opportunity to set up alarms on your phone, you set them up so that you're interrupted in your everyday life to remind yourself to stick to the habits, to stick to the intention. You do that enough on a continual basis, you'll find yourself in so many ways completely rejuvenated, and I promise you'll stick to your habits even more. And once you do that, you know that everything changes. For people who don't believe in themselves, it's not that there hasn't been evidence that they shouldn't believe in themselves. They've had some wins, they've had some goals that came true, they made the magic happen, but they never integrated the win. They never had a good thing happen and they sat there at the end of the night thinking about that good thing that happened and allowing it to come into their heart, allowing whatever they did to give themselves credit for it, permission to feel good about it, to say, you know what, I did this today. It went well today. That worked today. And to integrate that win, integrate that success, integrate that moment into their heart, into their identity as a human being. What happens is most of us, we knock off the checklist and did it. And 5 years later, after all these did it, made it happen, crushed it. 5 years later, we feel the same about ourselves, the same level of confidence, the same level of belief in ourselves, because we didn't allow those things to enter our psyche, enter our spirit as strength. We had momentum externally, but we didn't have any momentum internally, building our character and our strength. We never achieved that sense of pride or ownership of what we did. We didn't own it, that we did it. At the end of the day, just sit down at the end of the day and go, what worked today? What did I do today? What little thing should I allow myself a little bit of credit for? What did I say that was nice or kind? What did I send away that I got done? What did I finish? What goal did I move a little closer to? And just at the end of the day, to allow that to come in. This isn't about just pepping ourselves up and saying, I'm awesome, with no evidence. I'm saying, you got some momentum. Integrate that now. Own that. You did the work today. You fought the good fight. You finished the day. You're still alive. You know what you need to go do tomorrow. Integrate that success. Give yourself that credit. You'll develop that strength of spirit that's so important. If you don't believe in yourself after all that, hey, bub, get some feedback. What would I have to do in social situations to be able to, develop some confidence? What would I need to do to develop a deeper competency, skill set, talent, ability in this new area that will make me an all-around stronger, more competent and capable person? I think we should focus on the plan to develop your strengths much more than just stopping some of the inadequacies or the worries. Those will always be there. If you don't have them, the game is over. If I ever get to the point where I'm backstage and I'm about to go out on stage and perform for thousands of people who've paid thousands of dollars to see me, who came from 40 plus countries to be in the room, if I don't have any anxiety to that, some performance anxiety, that's gonna tell me that's probably the day I should, turn it in, quit, retire. Because it means I don't care enough about it. I want to experience some anxiety. I want to have a little stress. We know from high performance studies that a little bit of stress can give that edge in performance as long as it's managed, as long as it's utilized as a tool to pay attention, to focus, to execute, versus as an excuse to stop. So how have you been using anxiety? As a performance enhancement tool or an excuse to stop? The world's highest performers use it as a tool. They get an edge from it and they say, okay, I'm nervous, but that tells me I'm in the game, I better pay attention. And they also develop plans to develop themselves, to strengthen themselves in all their areas, emotionally, socially, financially, physically, spiritually, so that those anxieties start to diminish as they become more. Now, the first idea I have for you is stop prioritizing easy. Stop prioritizing easy. A lot of people, when they look at their to-do list of the day, they just start working towards the easy things, knocking off the easy things. They think that's gonna get me some momentum, it'll get me into the day, I'll feel like I'm succeeding, and the reality is it's making them less likely to actually do the things that count. And how do you know this? How do you know if you're guilty of that? You know it if your day feels like there's a lot of busy work, but there's an absence of your life's work. You know what I mean? If you don't feel like your activities during the day are really creating to your vitality, to the contributions you want to make with the world, to doing activities and tasks that you really enjoy, whose fault is that? Is it the man's? Is it the government's? No, it's like you're setting up your day. You can choose what to do with it. Maybe you need to look at doing things that would support you, your health, your vibrancy, your joy, your real growth and contribution in a more significant way. If you feel like there's always busy work, but it's not your life's work, you probably prioritize things at a larger level, maybe incorrectly for you. Now, I don't know this, I can't gauge it. I mean, I'm just talking you through here now as I look and as you listen to me. All I can do is encourage you to just look and say, how have I been prioritizing? Have I had a structure? Have I had a framework? Have I had ideas about what's important to me in the world? And I always run my decision-making through those? Because if you haven't set that up, this is the time to do that for yourself. Just because there's something that's easy to do does not mean it must be done today. What I would rather you to do is say, I am going to prioritize things today that will make significant steps forward in my life. These are, I just say, if the opposite of stop, or sort of prioritizing easy, is to prioritize progress. Things that actually move the needle of your life forward. Things that actually contribute in ways that you find meaningful and significant and fulfilling. And you know you deserve that, but sometimes you get caught up, right? Maybe you've just been caught up in everybody else's, hot mess, and your life thus became a hot mess. It's not because you are, it's that you were just doing the easy things to please people. Because, that's easy. Oh, I'm gonna please some people today. But what we need you to do is say, what would significantly move me toward my dreams today? What 3 things must happen today that would be real movement forward? Not like little checklists. Our whole world has gotten so addicted to little tiny checklists, but they're not doing anything meaningful. They're not checking off, I'm living my life, So I want you to get back into what would really progress me today. Stop prioritizing easy, start prioritizing progress, things that matter. I want you to take on something hard every day. You do that, you'll start to find yourself getting a little more confident, a little bit more momentum, a little bit more into that space where you feel like you're doing things you were meant to do.
In a role like mine, I'm a writer, I'm a coach, and I'm a trainer. My job is to share things that are relevant to the teaching point. So it's what am I trying to teach? Now I'll share case studies about my life or some research, but it's pretty limited towards only what I'm teaching. Mm-hmm. And people sign up for me to teach a very specific thing. So they're not seeing the whole picture of my life. They're just learning that specific thing. So I think it also left a lot of people going, okay, he's super successful, but I don't know anything about him.
Right.
And that created...
It's hard to trust people you don't know anything about.
Yes. Or you read the Motivation Manifesto, right? There is no Brendon in that book. The publisher famously turned down the book. We had a $2 million book deal. I turned in the book, and the editor goes, you wrote it like it's, 1776. There's not one story of you in here. Your audience wants to know about you. I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I'm writing for. I'm writing for the art. And so they said, we can't publish and we can't this book is unmarketable.
So you wrote a $2 million check back.
Wrote it back, which is painful because I already spent it. But
then you went and sold 1 million copies.
Yeah, then we went into 32 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list after they turned it down.
With no publisher. Well, I guess you had like a...
Yeah, we went to Hay House and they supported it and distributed it and did a great job on it. And I love them, and their community really got behind the book because they knew I wrote it for the art, not for I didn't sell out on the book. This was my my art has never been like talking about Brendon. My art has been, I want to teach, but I want to teach in a way that really hits you in the heart and gives you habits that you can implement in your life. But that also took me out of the picture a little bit because I didn't want to be the guru. I didn't want to be, I'm from Montana. We're pretty private there. And one of our main sayings there is, the time to have the map is before you enter the woods. So I just wanted to hand people the map. I didn't want to hand people like, look at me. I also had a big influence from my high school journalism teacher. And she said, there's two kinds of people. One who walks into a room and goes, here I am. And the other person walks into a room and goes, there you are.
So my question is, when is the last time you just gave yourself a few moments free away from, playing on the phone, free away from the internet, to just sit down by yourself to visualize and daydream about your dreams, about the activities involved in that, about how you would struggle through, about what it would feel like to be victorious, all of it, the whole thing, the messy part, the ugly part, what would you say to yourself when it gets hard? That's what you need to do. To truly actualize a dream, we gotta begin with seeing it and sensing it, the good, the bad, the easy, the difficult, and the victory. Every week on a Sunday, I think about all the goals of the week I just had and all the goals of the week I have coming up, and I literally measure myself. I'm like, hey, how did I do? On a scale of 1 to 10 last week, how did I do? 8, I did good. 6, I'm not so good. 4, I sucked, okay? And I rate myself every single Sunday. I think it's really important that you take a look at your goals on a weekly basis and rate, how was your performance? How did you do? Not just did you accomplish all of them, because you know what, life comes up. Your kid gets sick, you get tired, some big emergency happens in the business. Something will always come up that will prevent us from achieving every goal that we have every single week. But it's a good idea to say, where did I mess up? Where did I quit? Where did I stop? Not to berate yourself or be hard on yourself, just to acknowledge where you're at. Because if you're not looking at your goals on a weekly basis at least, what are the odds you'll keep working towards them? Just because they're a to-do list in your calendar doesn't mean you're going to keep going after them.
Necessity is kind of short for performance necessity, or what we call psychological necessity, which means there is a moment in which you are serving people or you're trying to achieve your goal or your dream in which now it is not a preference, it's a must, right? But to use better languaging, it becomes necessary for us to excel in this. Like it's not a hope anymore. It's not, it should do it. It becomes so necessary that it connects with our identity, that we feel it is necessary for me to deliver with excellence here because that is who I am. It's necessary for me to deliver with excellence here because somebody needs me to do well. It's necessary for me to do well here because this topic, this thing I'm doing, I'm passionate about this, I care about this, I want to master this. I'm obsessed with this. And it's necessary for me to do well because of the time. It's a deadline or it's go time. And when all those come together, that personal side of this is my identity and I'm obsessed about it, and that other side where it's like somebody needs me and there is a real deadline, right in the middle, that's performance necessity. And when we hit that, game changer.
We all have a level of competence, I guess, ceiling, if you will. We hit a top level in which we can take ourselves only so far. And then we need someone from the outside to look at it and say, oh, hey, kid, you need to adjust this, man. Try doing that. oh, have you thought of this? You know, when you're doing this, it's only this level, it needs to be this level. If you get somebody, and everyone says, well, Brendon, I don't have any coaches. Really? Well, how many have you asked? People always tell me, I don't have any coaches. Okay, great. How many did you ask? Are we failing in the asking, or are we failing in the never approaching? Like, where is it? Most people don't have coaches in their life because they never sought them out. They say, I wish I had that, but they never actually sat down and said, hey, I'm starting something here, and you seem to have competence in this area. Can we make an arrangement? Can I hire you as a coach? Can I pay you as a coach? Could we do something together? I mean, I started getting coaching informally from dozens of people in my industry just by asking. And now today I coach so many people I can't even count. I can't even, it's just like crazy. But I think that's what we have to start figuring out, is who's gonna coach you? And if you don't have a list of 10 or 12 people who you think could mentor you or advise you or coach you, then you're kind of grasping at hope and faith that maybe someday a coach will land on you. But I think you're gonna have to go out, just like every other area of success, and work a little harder, a little more focused in that area to have success there. Same with coaching, you gotta go get a coach.
People take an eye-opening experience, and some don't do anything with it, and some people grow from it. And I came back from that experience, I was in college, and prior to coming back, I was the depressed kid, the sad kid, kind of the lonely kid, kind of the pull away from the world kid because I was hurt. I came back and I had this new intention to live. So I wanted to meet people and talk to people, and they're like, who are you? And anytime you change your life, usually people are like, what's wrong with you? So everyone's like, what's wrong with you? But I was like, I'm gonna change. Because I knew I didn't want misery anymore. I didn't want suffering. I didn't want sadness. I didn't want negative thinking. I didn't want poor quality of relationships. I didn't want to feel horrible. So I began the quest of, well, how do I not feel horrible? So I started reading, first I started with personal development, self-help, then jumped into spirituality, then jumped into psychology, then jumped into neuroscience, then jumped into sociology, then jumped into leadership, and spent every week for 23 years, I've read a week on one of those topics for 23 years. I went to the seminars, I bought the audio courses, so I'm listening to Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale and Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and Louise Hay and Marianne Williamson and Debbie Ford and Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Brian Tracy, and I went down deep. Like, I'm very much like you, I'm obsessive. So I got obsessive into psychology. Carl Rogers, Alfred Adler, Roy Baumeister, Abraham Maslow, all of the positive psychology work that was developing at the time that was becoming bigger and bigger and bigger.
If you're really going to get ahead, you have to study your craft. You have to deeply study it. I decided, 18 years ago, that I wanted to help inspire and motivate people, and I wanted to coach people one-on-one on motivation and on high performance, and I wanted to write books on the topics. So 18 years ago, I started reading a book a week on psychology, leadership, communication, marketing, anything I could get out of my hand about human behavior and high performance. I was studying everything I could in psychology every single week. Now, it's like people are like, wait, you've read a book a week for 17 years? And I don't brag about it. I'm not like, oh yeah, look at me. That was for my passion. I knew if I really wanted to succeed at something, I had to study it, and I had to study it deeply. And I couldn't, spend all this time doing all the other things. So I had to study my craft. The great artists of our past history, that's what they did. They did one thing. They had a true level of depth of study in that area. Now, maybe they dabbled in some other areas too, but they became famous because they studied one area. And so what's your area? What's the thing you need to study on? Develop a deep level of competence into how to do it and how that world works. Because, we have this saying in Montana that the time to have the map is before you enter the woods. But a lot of people have a dream and they run out into the woods and they just start trying stuff. And they take this path and this path and this path and this path. And because they didn't study best practices, they wake up and they're lost. They're confused about who they are and where they're at. And they're in this dark forest of the unknown with no plan to get out. They had no idea. They just jumped into something. They didn't study before taking that leap. And I always say, study, pay attention, learn from the best, model the most intelligent, smart, successful people you can in any given area that you want to succeed in your life before you get into it. Then develop competency by doing it over and over and over and over again. Don't do it once in a while, here and there, over and over and over. That's how you get competence.
In our lives, especially when we're being
reactive. Information comes in, right? We're at an event, we're paying attention to how people treat us, we're studying something, we're trying to learn something, and we're just going about our regular day. Information is coming in. How people perceive us, the cause and effect of events, things are just happening. Information comes into the brain. From that point, the information immediately goes into interpretation. And what this usually means is interpretation in the fast reactive thing is safe, unsafe, good, bad, like it, don't like it, recognize it, don't recognize it. Been there, done that, unfamiliar, familiar, certain, uncertain, fear, safe. All these things start triggering. It's pretty unconscious and it's pretty fast. Our biases come into play. It's just that speed, spontaneous, reactive part of us. And that's not always bad. Sometimes it can be good, right? Sometimes it can be good. Interpretation can be that event, that's good for me. Or that event, that's bad for me. But usually it's like a snap judgment. Think about that. Most when we're talking about an unconscious level, it's like a snap judgment. Automatic. Like you like her, don't like her. Feel safe, don't feel safe. It's very fast. Then the next level, and this is not always linear, of course, because your brain is not left brain, right brain kind of methodology. Your brain's more of a spider web of interconnectiveness that is something we still don't understand. Okay? You can study everything in neuroscience and you might learn something about this lobe or that cortex region, but then only to find out that later on, a year later, like, well, actually it seems like it's also communicating over here. It's a spider web of unbelievable intelligence that's happening. And everything can be millisecond, hundreds of milliseconds of transitions between neural networks. It's unbelievably fast, unbelievably capable. So this is just for our understanding. It's not necessarily real world linear like this, but what tends to happen is as information comes in, good, bad, we also then move it to a level of, well, what does this mean to me? Identity. What does this mean to me? What does this either mean to me or what does this say about me? How does this apply to me? And if we're not conscious here, this can be really troublesome. Some of you discovered that yesterday, I bet, when you released a few things. Sometimes we have these events in our life that we take on and we just assume it meant something about us. And we didn't realize, no, that's more of a statement about them than it is about us, right? Sometimes when you're hurt or someone was rude to you, it had nothing to do with you. Raise your hand if you follow. It had nothing to do with you. But if you're not careful, you could say, mean person, unsafe, means I'm bad child. Rude behavior, uncertain about this, I must not belong. Terrible situation, I feel bad, I can never be safe again. How many follow how this happens? This is why we have to be very, very, very observational of our own thoughts and feelings, because how these things get labeled can really change our lives forever.
High performers seek clarity more often than their peers. And what that means for them is every situation they go into, they're seeking clarity and setting intention. And it's not like once in a while, they're doing it way more often. It's like, I've been blessed to work with Oprah Winfrey. When she has a meeting, at the start of every meeting, she asks, what's our intention here? What's the intention of this meeting? Not what's the agenda, what do I do? What's the intention? That's every meeting. So she's seeking clarity at the beginning of every meeting. That's why she's so amazing, right? If you think about her whole career, she was always trying to have people seek clarity on who they were so they could be themselves. That's what high performers are doing. They just do it more often. They seek clarity before they shoot that video, before they have the podcast interview. But specifically, we found 3 practices help you get better at seeking clarity. Number 1, they are seeking clarity in what we call the future 4. So you've probably heard that successful people are more future-minded. It's true. And specifically what they're looking at, if you talk to a high performer, they're more clear about who do I want to be in this upcoming situation. And by the way, it's not about who I am. It's about who do I want to be. They're more future-oriented. They're more intentional about who they want to be in social situations. So it's like, I want to have this type of interaction with Lewis today. That's intentional. They're more clear about what skills they need to develop to reach their next level of success.
Right.
Here's how you really know an underperformer. Open up their calendar and look for any evidence that they have planned their own curriculum for greatness. If they don't have classes or courses, if they're not actively skill building, there's no chance of high performance.
You know, great athletes, great performers, an executive walking into an important meeting, you got to go deal with your kid who's struggling with math. When we walk into those situations, we have to set intention for what we want to do in that situation, and we have to release tension. And so the practices in high performance habits, that was the second big finding that we had, was high performers are generating the energy, and that means the mental, emotional, physical energy that they feel is necessary to serve with excellence in a certain situation. Like, they're so conscious of it. And I know that's common sense for people, but it's not always common practice.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a lot of people just wander into that situation, and I'm the guy who says, you know what, get more intentional, release the tension you have, walk in as your highest self, because that's something you'll never regret.
You need to get in a community where you can get feedback. You need either a coach who can give you some direct one-to-one feedback, or a community of friends who you just go out with. Maybe you go to lunch to them once a month, you share everything you're doing, they give you some feedback. Or you shoot a video, you send that video out to everybody, get some feedback on it. You create a PowerPoint, practice it with 5 people before the big meeting. Like, get back in the game where you have a community of people who are giving you advanced feedback before you release it. Feedback before you do it, so that you get smarter at all of this. Because you know what, nothing makes a dream come more into life than when you start getting feedback from other people about your movement toward the dreams. You know, before I shoot a big sales video for one of my online courses, I'll send it out to 15, 20 people and get feedback, and then I'll often go reshoot it again. You know, or I'll put it out into my community and I'll see the clicks, the conversions, and say, it's not, let's do it again. And it's that willingness to get feedback that will keep your dream alive. Because look, if it's just in your mind and you're just doing it by yourself, but you never actually get a positive community giving you constructive feedback towards it, it will never be it will never be in the social realm. And when it is in the social realm, it feels more real, you know? When people actually comment, I mean, it's one thing to be an artist and in your studio painting for yourself all day, that's great. But once you get some feedback on it, and constructive feedback, you get that self-awareness and that social awareness to contribute and create at another level. What is it you're really after? And is it after are you after enough for yourself? Are you limiting yourself based on your current competencies? A lot of people do that. They narrow their vision or their ambition for tomorrow based on what they can do today or who they are today, without realizing they can develop their mastery, their skills, their competency, their knowledge, their experience, without realizing they can become a better person. They can live into their highest self. They can live into the type of person who could accomplish those goals, who could have those things. So never limit your ambitions based on your current competencies. Never limit yourself today based on your current inadequacies, because those can be irrelevant tomorrow. The main thing is to have aim in life, to have your own aim, to have your own ambitions, not the ambitions somebody told you should have or someone told you you're supposed to be after, because that's how we all get on sort of, you know, sometimes a corporate treadmill, or we get on those things where we just start trying to live a life that's not even our own because we're just going with everybody. But ambition liberates that. Your individual ambition, who you want to become, what you want to do, what you want to contribute. And the highest forms of all ambition usually come down to your creative expression, your contribution, and your connection with others. That creative expression. What is it you want to create in this world? And I mean, get your hands dirty doing, you know? Not just create some PowerPoint once in a while for some corporate thing, but something real and meaningful that you consider art for yourself, whatever that is, even if it is a PowerPoint presentation, right? But to do something that you find artistic and meaningful, that's our human drive for creative expression. Then, what about contribution? What's your ambition to give and to serve greatly for others? What do you really want to give back or give to others? What is it? And what about connection? You know, the ultimate ambition and aim to have, I think, for a lot of people is their relationships. To operate and have a love that knows no bounds. I mean, a love that is extraordinary, that is amazing. You can't improve your relationship with your family or your spouse or those that you serve unless you have in some sense about you that desire to love or give or connect more. So today, get clear. What is it you want? And is it big enough for yourself? Not limiting yourself based off your inadequacies, your competencies, but based on what you truly desire. Last challenge, take whatever that is that you come up with and 10x it. Take it by 10 times. What would be 10 times that ambition? Not just because it's silly, I know it's kind of silly, but to take that ambition that you initially have, which is usually, what we usually want is an impulse based on who we are today. And I just challenge people, no, think bigger for yourself because you are immense, you are magnificent, you are powerful beyond your current understandings. So break through that another level. Challenge your brain to think even bigger for yourself, even if it's just as an activity to break the bounds of your current beliefs and behaviors. You deserve something extraordinary in your life, but at first, you have to want it. What makes a great person these days? What really makes someone extraordinary? What makes somebody stand out? What's going to make you feel like you're contributing your best, like you're making your difference, and that you're always aspiring to be a better human, but you're also achieving along the way? I would argue that that thing that makes us great is generosity. You know, the ability to be generous to others with your time, your attention, your mentorship, your care, your love, your patience, your forgiveness, your understanding, your spirit, your energy. When you are generous with who you are, people vibrate with that. They feel it, they sense it, and they're surprised by it. In a world today where no one will even take time to say hello or to call somebody or to show a measure of appreciation, when you do that, you stand out, but you also light up in your soul. You know, it changes everything when you're willing to be different, when you're willing to be generous with people. Because really, you know, it's a very biblical thing. Ask and you shall receive. I also think that in terms of career and in terms of chasing your dreams, give and you shall receive. You know, give as much of your heart and your spirit and your life and your voice to this world, this time, this day, this person in front of you, because we only get one shot at this life. And today it never happens. You don't see it. You know, I'm blessed to be here and shooting this video at my writer's villa, where I come to write and now shoot these episodes. And I can share with you, you know, all this. When I got here and what I think about this space, it came from a position of generosity. And it came from a position of generosity in my life so long ago when I had a high school mentor, Mrs. Ballou, who believed in me. She saw me take some pictures and she said, you know, those pictures are pretty good. Even though honestly, looking back, they were kind of crap. But she cheered me on anyway because I was putting effort, and she could see I was kind of passionate about it. And she said, you know, you could probably write and you could probably shoot these photographs. And nobody had ever really told me I had any potential before. And here's this person for no reason saying, you could probably do this. And I started doing it, and she'd cheer me on and cheer me on. And her generosity of her time, her effort, her mentorship, there was no reason she did it. She just believed in me. But you know what? She believed in everybody around her. She was always cheering people on, always rewarding effort, always telling people to pursue their passions and believe in themselves. And I'm here today, I get to do this work with you, and millions of people see these videos and hear me online or watch my posts online or read my emails every single week because this woman, who was a teacher at a simple high school in a simple town with a simple, beautiful, generous spirit said, I believe in you, kid. I remember when I was going to start my business and I really wanted to be good at it. You know, I was trying to become an author and a speaker and do these types of videos and do some online training for people on the topics of motivation and marketing. And you know, all these people were saying, well, Brendon, you may or may not be successful at that, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, it's a weird thing. It's not like there's a trait of successful people. You look across history and successful people, they're not from a given background. They don't come from a specific economic stature. They're not in a position where, they're one demographic or another demographic. I mean, it's all over. I mean, we've got thousands of collective years of history. People succeed, some people do, some people don't. And I think it more comes down to how do we manage our mind and how do we manage our days? And I think that there's a difference between successful people and unsuccessful people in the way they particularly think about approaching something new.
I think unsuccessful people, when they have a big dream and they start thinking about what's going to be required to accomplish that dream, they get very limiting in their beliefs about themselves and what's possible. And specifically, they say 3 types of things. The first thing they often say is, well, I don't know how to do that. So they stop. They say, I don't have those things. So they stop. Or they say, I don't know, I'm not like those people. I'm not like that. And so they stop. But successful people have a different way. They have the same thing. Everybody dreams. You dream, I dream. Successful people dream. People just starting out. Everybody dreams. Everyone has a vision. Everyone, if they can just take 5 minutes today and think about their lives, we could all come up with ways to improve our lives and reach another level of success, joy, happiness, achievement, contribution, fulfillment, soul. We can all elevate. But the challenge is that the unsuccessful people, they keep stopping when they think of what they currently know, have, or are. But successful people say, well, I want to do that, but I don't know how to do that. But instead of stopping, they say, well then, my job is to go learn that. They take their current limitation and they put it on their agenda as a job to do, as a thing to figure out, a thing to make happen. Instead of saying, well, I don't have that, they say, well, then my job is to go build that. Or I'm not like that. Then they say, well, then my job is to go become more of that. Become that person who could accomplish those things. When I was starting to do online marketing for the first time, and I don't know how much of my story you know, but when I started doing online marketing, I was literally bankrupt. And I went from a place of bankruptcy to the point where I really committed to becoming successful at it. And in 18 months, I'd made $4.8 million, 4.6 collected. I mean, it was just a huge leap, right, in difference from bankrupt to multimillionaire in the span of 18 months. But what made that breakthrough wasn't that I had new opportunities. It wasn't that I had new technologies. It wasn't like, wow, there's the internet now. Those things were already there. I went from this level of thinking to this level of thinking. I used to say, well, I don't know how to build a web page. So I said, agenda, figure out how to build a web page. And I spent hours and hours and hours at nights, on weekends from my job, figuring out how to do that. And I said, well, I don't have one of those lists. I don't have any subscribers. Nobody knows who I am. So I said, job, go build a list. Go get subscribers. Go add value and content out at the marketplace and they'll come. I mean, just keep putting stuff out there. And I also didn't say, oh my gosh, well, I have that dream. I can't have that because I'm not like that. Because I wasn't a public speaker. I didn't know how to do video. I wasn't like, well, I'm not one of those video people. Well, I'm not a public speaker. So I said, you know what? I have to go learn that art. I have to go become a better speaker, a better communicator. I have to go become more confident. I have to go become a person capable of doing these things. I have to change myself to get there. I can't wait for circumstances to change so I can have my dream. Then our dreams would never happen. We have to get to the point of maturity in our lives where we say, okay, 2 things are going to change my life. Something new is going to come into my life and make me lucky and blessed. And maybe I can't count on that forever. And maybe now instead I have to consciously design my life and say, okay, now if I want to change, if I want my dream, something new has to come from me. I'm going to become a better person. I'm going to become a person who is more optimistic, who is more confident, who is more driven. Not because I am that now, but because we can grow. That you can become the type of person who you need to be to achieve your ideal life. You can start today living from your highest ideals, your highest sense of self, your strongest sense of self. You don't need permission. You don't need a guy like me to look at the video camera and say, you have now permission. But if you've been waiting for it, you have permission. It's like at some point in your life, you just say, okay, I have permission to become my best self. And by becoming your best self, you start to achieve your best things. You start to contribute better things. You start to become a better human being. You can do that now, today. So next time you're thinking about a big dream, don't think about the things that, well, I don't know how to do that, and stop. Think, I don't know how. So set it up on your calendar to go learn those things. I don't have that, then set it up step by step to go build that. I'm not like that, then set it up step by step to go develop those skill sets and those competencies so you can become that, and ultimately you can achieve that dream. It's there, it's waiting for you. Don't stop.
If you want even more Brendon Burchard, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
When we sense that we're role models to others, purpose is connected in that very moment. When you know you're being a role model to your kids, boom, purpose is connected. When you know you're being a role model for your team, boom,